Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Tiny Brains podcast. I'm Kevin Joyce, CEO at Tiny Brains, and with me is Peter Graham, the Brigadier of Brains.
Good afternoon, all.
So, what we do on this podcast, if you're brand new here, is every week we take a look at the biggest stories in XR from the previous week. And one of the biggest this week was AWE. If you were there and we met and we had a coffee, wonderful, thank you. I had a really good time, and I hope you all did too. But I have some takeaways from the show. There was a lot of discussion about the attendance rate. Now, my opinion of the attendance rate was it's actually not bad. Um, there was lots of people around at the show, but the issue seemed to be that the venue was quite large, and so the gangways, the alleyways, the walkways, the paths, whatever you want to call them, between the booths was quite wide. And as such, it gave the impression that there weren't many people moving around. I don't think that was the case. I just think the space was too big for the attendance rate of the show. But the attendance rate of the show seemed fine. It seemed pretty good, in fact. There was never a point at which I was looking at a booth thinking they're not getting anybody come to it. There was rarely a case in which you didn't have to line to try some of the experience, didn't have to queue up. So while it may have looked quite empty, in actual fact, I think the attendance rate was quite good. And there was some pretty good hardware and software on display, including the likes of Snap, who had a big showcase piece in their own private section, of course, and a couple of other little areas where you could try stuff, including a weird basketball game thing outside, which I didn't try. And actually physically playing basketball. I don't know what it was about. But hey, they didn't even seem to be wearing glasses while they were throwing the balls. I
What?
don't,
No,
I don't know
no,
what it was.
rubbish.
Yeah,
But
I should have asked, really. Yeah. But overall, I thought it was a good show. I've been to several AWEs now, and they do flip between good and not very good. And this year, I would certainly put in the good category. I hope you all agree. And if you'd like to meet us at AWE EU later this year, we're probably going to be there too.
yeah, definitely.
But diving into the news stories, some of which are actually from AWE, we're going to kick off with the Apple Vision Pro, which was not at AWE.
Definitely not because Apple had its annual WWDC event. That was on Monday, I believe. And yes, they came out with lots and lots of Vision Pro announcements, mainly around the OS system. So they're going to be launching later this year visionOS 2026, and it's going to be packed full of new features. We're not going to go through all of the new features today because you've probably seen lots and lots of news reports, but we are going to cherry pick some of the more interesting ones. One of the biggest being PlayStation VR2 controllers. Now, did you hear about this, Kev? Well, this is something this is news that we've been rumored for a few months, hasn't it? So.
Yeah, no, we know bits and pieces about it. I also saw something online, and forgive me if I'm incorrect here because I have not done my research. I recently got off a plane. Um, but I saw something online about dual shock compatibility as well. Not dual shock. What's the one? Dual sense. There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
The dual sense controllers. Yeah, yeah. So yes,
So,
essentially, Apple are going all in with Sony and bringing their Sony are going to sell the controllers separately, and it's going to be later this year that the all this compatibility is going to come out. So yeah, you're going to be able to play lots of games on controllers on your Apple Vision Pro if developers implement,
so
of course.
So essentially, this to me screams of Apple thinking, yes, okay, we missed a trick here, but not wanting to promote the Vision Pro as a gaming device still, but knowing that gamers are looking for this kind of device, so thus partnering with Sony for DualSense and the PSVR 2 controllers.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you don't have a PSVR 2, you can just use a standard DualSense. If you do have a PSVR 2, you can use the separate two-handed controllers,
Yes.
one-handed controllers.
Or they will be, available to buy separately as well.
Oh, will they? I missed that.
They will be. Sony will be selling them independently from the PSVR 2 for this very reason. And talking about input control, Apple are as up till now it has been all hand tracking, but it's been 30 hertz hand tracking. With the new updates, it was going to go up to 90 hertz hand tracking, which will mean smoother, more responsive hand tracking, which is good.
I'm pretty sure at some point on this podcast late last year, we discussed the fact that 2025 will be the year of hand tracking improvements.
Hand tracking and AR,
Yeah, that's what we
all,
said.
all intertwined into one. Yes.
Not saying that Tiny Brains knows everything about XR, but we're right quite a lot, it seems.
We're fairly on the ball. We're on point, I think, most of the time. Let's go through some other features as well. Improved personas, those weird holographic pictures of yourself. Well, they're going to look better and more familiar and less freaky.
Getting
As
less weird.
huh?
You called them weird. They're getting less weird.
Yeah, well, then they're going to get less weird. Yes, they're also going to introduce local share play, which means that two users in the same area with Vision Pros can now interact and play games. So I don't know how many people friends own Vision Pro to make this a real feasible feature, but okay,
Now go down well at AWE.
yeah, 7 grand's worth of a spatial computing headsets in the same room. You're sorted. Another one is this is another a little feature that we've heard about from Meta previously, and they called them augments, but we've not seen or heard of them since. But it's pinning windows and pinning widgets in your virtual environment. And yes, you're going to be able to do that on your Vision Pro. Pin a weather app or a nice picture or something, and then when you put your headset back on, it will still be there in your space. So sounds very nice.
Sure,
Uh,
HoloLens did this.
did HoloLens have something similar?
I'm sure they did.
Mm, mm. Okay, well, maybe these ideas, spatial anchors and all that sort of stuff
Yeah,
has been
makes sense.
long running. And yeah, final one, videos native 360 and 180 video support on your Vision Pro, which will be nice. Lovely.
All sounds great. All sounds like steps that need to be taken. So congratulations, Apple, for delivering the bare minimum for your very expensive headset. Moving on, we have less expensive headsets that are still kicking around.
Yes, people still seem to want Windows mixed reality to live. Now, yes, as we have previously spoken on this podcast, Microsoft essentially killed off Windows mixed reality. They killed them off, well, they killed off all the headsets last year with the an update, Windows 11 24H2, and that killed support for all those headsets. But it seems someone in Microsoft isn't willing to let them die. There's a solo developer who works within Microsoft, within actually the Xbox department, who is working on a Steam VR driver to bring Windows mixed reality headsets back to life. And it's something that should be arriving hopefully later this year. It's a dude called Matthew Buccianeri. I hope I've said that correctly. And he is a veteran developer. I've got some things. He worked on the PS4 and the original PSVR. He has worked at SpaceX at doing on the Falcon 9 and the Dragon rockets, and most recently HoloLens and Windows mixed reality. So he's got a bit of a history with this technology,
Some
and
pedigree there.
he's working on it by himself to just go, hey guys, no, these things can live, and I'm going to release this driver for free later this year on Steam. It's only going to work with NVIDIA GPUs at the moment, he says, but hey, that's still a thing.
Yeah, that's still good. We did talk about the discontinuation of Windows MR on this podcast before, and we both said at the time, I seem to recall that it will be sorely missed. These headsets are getting quite old now, but they're still decent. And yeah, so hopefully they can live on for all those people that haven't yet upgraded, which is probably very few.
Well, that's it. It gives them a second lease life for the people that still own them. And well, you might find them on eBay here and there, but at least it means that they're not suddenly, useless paperweights.
I've still got one on the shelf right behind me.
Oh, very good, very good. I can't see it at the moment.
No, you can't. Moving on. Snap, as I discussed earlier, they were at AWE in full force, and they have some big announcements as well.
Specs, yes, that's what they're called. Snap have announced specs, which are going to be their consumer AR glasses coming in 2026. Up until this point, most of their AR glasses, well, the two dev platforms that they've released have been developer only. You've had to be in part of their developer program. Last year they released the second gen AR spectacles, and yeah, you had to pay like $1,000 a month to be part of it. Now, let's not get these mixed up with their smart glasses. They have previously released spectacles in previous years, which are more like the Meta Ray-Ban. They had cameras and stuff on them. Now, let's not get these two mixed up because these specs are said to be AR glasses coming in 2026. And this isn't even a rumor because, as we said, these were announced at AWE. So it's not even some just dodgy rumor. The CEO said at the time that they're going to have a smaller form factor than the dev kits at a fraction of the weight. And they've also confirmed that it's going to be all onboard processing. So it says no bulky headset, no puck, no tether, no phone required. So all on board.
Yeah, I think they sound great, but I also do think that Snapticals was a better name.
Well, they're going to be called specs. You take it up with their marketing department, Kev.
Should have stuck with the original branding. It was popular. People liked it. But yeah, there we go. But yes, the original Snapticals that came out, the first and second gen of those, you did have to be a developer for those, but it was literally filling out like a Google form, basically. And that was it. And then they had the other glasses, which were developer program only, which, as you correctly pointed out, you did have to pay a monthly subscription to be a part of it. Um, but most specs developers obviously were making that revenue from selling lenses on Snapchat.
Yeah.
So this is an in between, I believe. It's not Snapticals, but it's not the dev specs. It's a middle road, which isn't going to cost you $1,000 a month, and also you don't have to fill out that silly Google form. You can well, it's not a Google form, it's a form on the website, but essentially the same thing. But yeah, you can just buy them off the shelf in your local, what do they call them? Glossery. Glassesery.
Three. What?
Opticians.
Yeah.
They sell them at opticians? I don't know. What do they call opticians in America? I don't know.
They might even open up their own stores. Who knows?
Maybe.
Like Meta.
You buy them on Amazon. That's where you buy them. Anyway, yes, moving on. We're sticking with the smart glasses for a short while. We have some news from Qualcomm.
Yes, this is some nerdy processor news in the fact that Qualcomm have announced the Snapdragon AR1 Plus chip. Very exciting stuff, isn't it? But it is in terms of AR glasses and all these new face one computing devices. This is what it's designed to do. It's designed for this. It's designed to be lighter. It's 26% smaller than the previous generation, than just the AR1. So it enables smaller form factor products, and it's also uses like 7% less power, so you can get more battery life out of these things. But these aren't to be confused with an announcement that was a couple of years ago. They announced the Snapdragon AR2 Gen 1 processor, but this is not to be confused with that one. The AR2 was for standalone. Wasn't for standalone devices. It needed a compute puck or something else with it, whereas the AR1 Plus sounds far more for these standalone snapticals, spectacles, whatever you want to call them.
They did do a demo of this during the keynote at AWE, which I was in attendance for, and they concentrated mostly on SLMs, small language models,
Yeah,
and they were talking a lot about the interaction with AR language models. One of which was at one point he asked the processing the AI that was on board to deliver a poem about AR, which it did. It was great.
yeah, you're quite right. Yes, so it's going to be able to support. I think it was with Meta's Llama, wasn't it? That it was actually onboard AI rather than what you can't get at the moment, where it needs an internet connection to access AI features. This will be on board, so it's not quite as good as say like ChatGPT or Gemini, but it's still decent, and you don't need the Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Which is great considering it's a standalone device. So, if you're tethering it to your phone, of course. But if it's a standalone device, you want something on board.
Yeah.
And yeah, this looks impressive.
One day we'll all be Tony Stark with Jarvis on our face.
One day.
One day.
Moving on from that though, we're going to another fantasy realm. We like to wrap up this podcast with a bit of gaming news every week, and this time we're going to the Upside Down.
We are indeed with Stranger Things Catalyst. If you're a fan of the Stranger Things TV show from Netflix, if you're still bothered to buy about it in any way, shape, or form, because it has sort of, stopped few years ago. Sandbox VR, the location-based arcade company, and Netflix have teamed up once again for this multiplayer game based in the Upside Down. It's like all sandbox games, like I say, it's for multiple players. They haven't said how many players, but normally these are sort of up to between sort of four to eight players usually. It's been developed in-house by Sandbox, and it's their third collaboration with Netflix. They previously did what was it, the Rebel Moon, the Descent, and they also did the Squid Game Virtuals collab as well. So yes, you'll be able to step into the Upside Down world and fight all sorts of nasty creatures with your
Now,
mates.
this is not to be confused with the Stranger Things game that is available on consumer headsets, which got a bit of a mixed reception, if I recall. This is a brand new experience built specifically for sandbox locations.
Exactly. Coming out later this year. That's it.
So yeah, that's great. That's all we got time for on this podcast this week. So thank you all for joining us. If you'd like to have any of your projects discussed on this podcast, reach out to Pete, preferably, or either of us at any of the channels that are listed below, and we'll see you all again next week.